What's going on, everybody? This is Life,
This is Suelo.
And this is Adrian.
and this is Just Do the Damn Thing podcast.
Do the damn thing, do the damn thing, yeah. Do the damn thing, do the damn thing, yeah. Do the damn thing, do my damn thing. I'ma do my damn thing. I'ma do my damn thing.
Welcome back to another episode of Just Do the Damn Thing podcast. And today's topic, we're going to talk about the public education system and whether or not it needs some reform or some change. So it's only right we start the topic with our resident teacher, Miss Adrian. So we'll go ahead straight into you. Tell us about the public education system and your opinion on it.
All right. Well, first off, I guess the reason why this topic hits home, or for me, is I have a lot of, obviously, as being a teacher and being in education, you hear people say, well, we need to do this, or this kind of thing should happen, and teachers should be doing this kind of thing, especially this past year with the pandemic. I mean, we got hit with everything as teachers, like, oh, where do I bring my kids since the teacher's not at school, and all kind of just all kind of, and my kid's failing because of you, and just makes you think about like how, like, does the education system, let's start with that. Do you guys think the education system needs to be reformed at all?
I think we all agree that yes.
Yeah,
It
I
definitely needs some
agree.
change.
Yes.
Mhm.
So how would you guys change it? I'll actually hand off the mic to you, Suelo. How would you change it? What's one of your first ways you change it?
Okay. So one big thing that I've noticed that I have a grief with that you don't really think about like as a student, but as you get older and you start to take college classes and things like that, like a class that I took in college that I thought would have been really helpful to take in high school was something like critical thinking or philosophy. I can't speak for other school districts, other states, but at least here in Kern County in California, that's not taught in high school. It's not in the curriculum for the public education system, and I think that is something really key because we need to learn how to think critically. You know, let's teach our kids common sense because trying to teach kids like just read out of a book and recite this and remember it, like how is that really going to help them in their adult life? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think we should do that more often.
Yeah, I think it's vital. Teach kids common sense and how to think for themselves rather than like group thinking or just do whatever whatever you read in this book is the ultimate truth and
Nothing but the truth.
Exactly, and you can't think for yourself. You know what I mean? So I just like people to learn how to think for themselves, learn some critical thinking skills. What do you think is something that we need to change in the public education system?
So for me, I think what we need to change is having more schools and more things in the public system where we do trades. So like carpentry, teaching how to clean a house, teaching how to get stains out of clothes, teaching how to cook.
More vocational.
More vocational, yeah. So learning more vocational things, learning a different type of trade, like auto mechanic stuff is not
welding, stuff like
those things are not
carpentry.
taught as often. And I think it should be taught at a younger age, not just high school. It should be taught through elementary school, junior high, and high school.
Yeah, definitely. So there is the ROC, the Regional Occupational Center, at least here where we're from in our city, where it's typically students really only take it 1 year. I knew some kids that took it 2 years, but typically only take it 1 year, and you can learn firefighting, carpentry, coding, and different trades.
Yeah.
And but it's only 1 year, and I ultimately feel like it should be more accessible citywide because this is like a 1 to 2 year program, and only a certain amount of kids are accepted.
Yes.
Maybe if each high school had that, or if there was a specialized high school for just that trade that the students could attend while also learning some general stuff, you know what I mean? But specializing in that trade, because not everybody wants to go to college and become a teacher, you know what I mean? Or these other professions,
some
lawyers,
people want to
whatever.
be in construction and learn how to paint houses and stuff like that. And I think that if we had, like you said, more accessibility to it, and we don't even really tell our kids that we have these programs all the time.
Yeah, a lot of kids don't even know that it's available, right? Yeah.
I didn't know it was available when I was in high school.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. I think we can all agree that, teaching kids more trades, because trades is something that's definitely we're gonna need. We're gonna need builders. We're gonna need people to weld stuff for us. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So why not teach it to kids, like you said, at a younger age, not just in high school. I wouldn't say elementary school,
I
maybe
would say
middle
elementary because
school.
I would say elementary school, but
Uh-huh.
to a certain extent.
Right.
So I wouldn't say teach an elementary school how to do construction necessarily, but they
Hmm.
could learn how to clean the house, how to take
Oh,
stuff
I
out of
see.
the.
I see what you're
So
saying.
I'm not saying only just trade stuff. I'm
Hmm.
saying like everyday world stuff and trades at the same time.
Right.
Because like
Hmm.
like we used to have home ec all the time, and I don't see that in every single school.
I don't think home ec was offered at my school.
It's that's my point.
Yeah,
I just said
exactly.
that it's
Yeah.
like it's not offered everywhere,
Hmm.
and it should be in every single school to learn a little bit of home ec, learn a little bit how to cook for yourself,
Yeah,
because I think
that's vital.
yeah, it's vital. We're the kids are the future, and if they have to be 25 by the time they even learn how to make a grilled cheese sandwich, that's kind of
Yeah, yeah, definitely,
it's kind of
definitely.
bad.
Well, and here's another thing. I think an argument that people would have to that, let's say like home ec, for example, is some people would argue that, well, that should be taught at home. You know, that's a parent's responsibility. What would your opinion be on that, Adrian?
I think it's both.
Hmm.
Being a teacher, I can only do so much.
Right.
Back to I'm gonna go back to your critical thinking
Hmm.
point. It is so difficult because in class, like I'll ask the kid the question. I'll say, "What do you guys think about this?" And you hear that, you guys know that's an opinion based question,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But
What's your
kids
opinion
are
on it?
so much taught to what's the answer? What's the right answer? Give me the
Right.
1+1=2 answer. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Exactly.
There's only
Yeah.
one answer, and the right answer,
So
the
they're
answer you want to
afraid to
hear.
answer.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they won't answer. And I'm like, and I have to tell them there's no wrong answer. I want to know your opinion.
Yeah. Give
And
me your
it's so
opinion.
shocked when they ask for your opinion
Like,
because again, they're taught to, when you do
Obey
math,
your
there's only one answer to this
yeah,
problem. There's
this
not.
leads to this, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
that.
that's it.
But they're also taught to obey your teacher. So when you think you have your own opinion, like when you're parents, we always say this thing where it's like, because I said so,
Yes.
or
Oh my
I'm
Yeah.
the
God.
adult, so you should listen.
You're right. Just do what I say and don't question it.
Do what I say because I said so.
That
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
in turns inside the school,
Mhm.
because that's what they do. They get scared, they freeze up because like, okay, this is a parent, this is a teacher, this is someone that's older than me. I shouldn't have an opinion at all.
Right.
That's what they feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've noticed that a lot. Or where a kid, yeah, agree with that, where they're scared to show their opinion, and which would lead to my next point, where something that we should teach in school is self-esteem, because I feel like kids are scared to share their opinion or say the answer out loud in front of the kids because they're scared to get embarrassed. They care too much what the students or the teachers think about them. So I think something, I don't know if it would be offered in the same class as critical thinking, but teaching kids self-esteem, I think that is something very vital. A lot of parents lack in that because a lot of parents don't even have the self-esteem themselves. So how are you going to teach your child? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we could add that to the curriculum some way, somehow, because that is extremely vital to somebody's success or just well-being as an adult. Would you guys agree?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I totally agree with that.
I think that's something that we all struggle with. And for me, I work with middle school kids, so it is horrible when it comes to self-esteem. Horrible because they're
Right.
going through puberty, their bodies are changing, and they're at this point now where boys and girls are looking at each other, or girls and girls, or boys and boys, or whatever the situation may be. And so it's you just hear gossip and drama and opinions about this person
Right.
doing this and this person doing this. And so they have no self-esteem. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Even
and
the
it's
ones that
sad.
talk about other kids, the bullies, they're the worst.
They're the worst. That's what.
Yeah.
They're
And
the
so,
worst.
yeah, like it's hard because I'll tell the kids like all the time. It's easier when you hear it from an adult saying it, but I'll say like, "Who cares? What's such and such thing?" And I'll tell them it's not cute to fail. Like, you know what I mean? Because they'll sit there and think they're being cute or whatever, and I'm like,
Oh,
"Really?
right. Yeah,
It's not cute to fail. Like, just because if I ask you a question and you're just like embarrassed to answer because of such and such gonna look at me funny, but
Yeah, exactly. Right.
really at the end of the day, is that F on your report card cute? Like because you couldn't,
Yeah.
because you just didn't want to study because
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
right. And at the end of the day, that person's opinion that that child is worried about,
Yeah.
it shouldn't have an effect on them. It doesn't matter at the end of the day.
That's what I tell them. And I tell them that about myself. I said, I don't care if you guys like me. You're not paying my bills. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
straight
that's how
up.
you guys should think about each other. Like, if they're not helping you pass this class, then their opinion does not matter.
Yeah,
you know
straight
what I mean?
up.
Like, if they're not gonna help you study, they ain't gonna like encourage you to do better in class, then don't care what they think, because they obviously don't care about your well-being, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. I remember I had a professor in my college class, in my math class, and she would like ask a question and people were like hesitant to answer, and then she would just stand there awkwardly and then just say like the person next to you isn't gonna pay your bills.
Right.
Like
Man.
why are you
Why are you so
embarrassed? Why are
afraid?
you scared? Like, you're here to learn, especially in
Yes.
college. You're paying for this. Why not try
but-
to learn and maximize it?
But that speaks to the point of the critical thinking not being taught. It has never been really taught, so it keeps going in a huge cycle of these, adults when they get to college, they still don't have critical thinking.
Yeah, they still don't have the
They
critical
still
thinking.
don't have I have my own opinion, because they're scared. And I think it's also a culture thing. Do you think?
Yeah,
Oh
culture.
yeah, groupthink is a big part of culture.
Culturally, it's like we shouldn't have an opinion about something else because somebody else may feel a certain way and they'll bash you for it. And then in the comments on YouTube, like this freaking podcast, I'm sure eventually when we get bigger, a whole bunch of bad comments are going to be down
of
below.
course. Of
And-
course. Yeah.
I was gonna say
So
on
like,
that, it's
oh,
just
man.
people are scared to be different. I know this kind of like, I don't know if it's like a tangent off of that, but like just scared to be out of the box. Like, I don't know, I'm thinking about one of my favorite artists, Erykah Badu. Like, she is totally doesn't care what nobody else thinks.
Right.
She's totally outside the box, and
which has led to her success. That's why she's
yes.
successful as she is.
But people are scared to do that because of, wow, that's strange that she does this, and she does things that people would consider strange, but they're true to
Right.
her.
You know
Yeah.
what's crazy? It's crazy about that the people that say that's strange literally do things that are strange all the damn time.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Do what's true to you at the end of the day.
And
you
they
know?
probably think of doing that, but they only call it out because their own self-esteem.
Yeah. Of course. Of course. Did you have another point that you
Yeah, I
wanted
felt
to
like
speak on?
we went off on a railroad
No,
here,
yeah,
but
yeah,
it's
yeah.
okay.
Let's go back to
It's
the
okay.
education.
Conversation, right?
Mhm.
So one of my points for education system is that, especially from a teacher standpoint, being more student centered. And I don't know if you guys know what that means because you're not fully in education. Like
No.
that,
What does that mean?
but, so we have like different teaching models or way we teach, the way we do school, I guess you could say. So there's like student teacher centered, there's student centered, there's student teacher centered might be like where I teach you and you do. It's like I do, you do kind of situation,
Okay.
right? Kind of more what you guys are saying that pretty much education is, right? Hey, do this problem on page 3 and they do it and that's it.
Right. Yeah.
Student center is more like let's work together to solve this issue. So I might say, okay, guys, build this particular thing or do this particular project. You got to work together, figure out how to do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you would do
Oh,
if your boss gave
'cause
you
you-
something at work.
Yeah.
right?
That kind of teaches
And
being more social with
that
the other
and,
kids.
and
yeah.
the fact that you're gonna have to be on a team. Like
Yeah.
you go work at Target, you're on a team
Yeah,
with the
you-
sales
you
floor.
have
You
to
gotta
work
figure it
with
out.
people,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like
Mhm.
go unload the truck. And I'm not gonna say, okay, Marcus, you get that box down and Larry, you get the, you know what I mean? Nobody's
Yeah.
gonna do that. They're gonna say,
That's
here you go.
micromanaging. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that's what student means. It means
Student-centered,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Student centered means to learn how to work together to
Yeah.
resolve whatever issue may be.
Yeah, and letting them be involved in their education is also
Mhm.
like more student centered. So
Okay.
saying, I don't want to take PE. I mean, you should take PE because of fitness reasons. But okay, I don't want to take English. Maybe I want to take African American history or something like that. Or let me be more involved in what I want to learn. You know what I mean? What I feel like is better for me and my personality in my life.
Right.
So yes, now I'm gonna say I fully believe in the foundation of education. Everybody should learn math and English. As far as if you want to go off foundational, those two are foundational, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
English,
I'm a history teacher, so
reading,
I'm gonna say
writing,
history
math.
is important. But even me, like I'm like, okay, well, this U.S. history, that's what I teach. I mean, we could come from any perspective in U.S. history. We come from the victors. That's where we always come from. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because they're the ones
Those
that
who-
write the history.
Yes, exactly.
That's why it's called
But
his
we
story.
have the resources to teach from other perspectives, from the African American perspective, from the Latin perspective, from it doesn't have to be. It also doesn't have to just be race, it could be from gender, from the women's perspective. And
Mhm.
I didn't take classes like that till college, where I took
Right.
women's history. It was all about history of women, and women impacting history, not just
Right.
and which is usually just men, that we teach.
Mhm.
Or just, I took California history, or it was just about California's impact on history. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Stuff like that. So allowing kids to say and pick and choose kind of what they want to really, what's the word? Focus on. Kind of
Right.
like what you do when you do get so far in college at some point. They say, okay, you're a history major, you're just taking history classes. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But it's not till way on. By then, you're like, I'm just trying to get done.
Yeah, right.
Man.
No, which to that I agree. That's something I've been saying since I was in high school.
Yeah.
Was that we should have more of a system like that where. So in my opinion, I think I agree with you with the English and the math. I think you should get to a certain level of English and math, math, maybe algebra 1. Like let's be realistic. Like, how much do you use anything other than algebra or arithmetic in your everyday life?
Statistics you use all the time, but
what do you mean?
Geometry is used a lot too.
Right.
when it
basic
comes-
statistics are
yeah.
used all the time.
Yeah.
Right. So what I'm trying to say is that we don't get past some basic maths, right? Like,
Yeah.
why
Yeah,
should
yeah.
somebody start studying calculus and all of these other
Unless they're going to
maths?
be an engineer or something like that.
Right, exactly.
Mhm.
So
Or
which
science.
goes to my point that you should get to a certain level, and then at that point you could start taking nothing but electives and focus on the thing that you want to focus on.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that should be offered in high school.
That's literally the same thing I had a conversation with you
Right.
about. That
Uh-huh.
we don't. That's the reason why I didn't want to go to college. It's because I'm studying for graphic design, and I'm like, I'm done with algebra and geometry. I got A's in those classes. I'm done with that.
Yeah,
And I have to retake that
you have to retake it for what,
in
right?
college when I'm trying to focus on learning how to use these programs to create content, and that's not going to help me in this particular
Yeah.
situation.
It's
I already
not.
know enough about it.
Exactly, and right, and it just the fact that they force us to study these things that we isn't gonna be relevant to us in our adult lives is just mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
I think we should be able to focus on whatever it is that we want to study. So to that so I think the counter argument somebody would have is the funding for it. How are we gonna pay for all of it? How are we gonna pay for a specialized high school or extra classes? Like, what would you guys say to that?
I would say the money's there.
Mhm.
From being in the education system, like I said, being a teacher myself, if they told me tomorrow, like, oh, you're gonna teach 2 blocks of African American history, just take away 2 of my US. It can happen. You know what I mean? There's
Oh, I
ways.
see.
Yes. Now on the flip side, teachers like in the secondary, what we call secondary school, which is 7th through 12th grade,
Mhm.
usually their credential is specialized. So like I
Right.
can only teach social science, but under social science, the umbrella of social science, like you said, philosophy falls under social science.
Yeah.
So I could easily teach a philosophy
Right.
class or a critical thinking class or psychology
Right. Okay.
or any of those classes.
Mhm.
So, you hear history teacher, you're thinking, well, I can only teach history, but social science is so broad. So is English. English is literature, creative writing,
Yeah.
which is good for like if you're an artist, right, or
Mhm.
music or express poetry.
Yeah.
Journalism falls
Mhm.
under English. So it doesn't. It's very. I guess I'm gonna like give you an inside track. We could do it. It's just
Right.
I think we're just very like this is the way it's been and this is the way it's
Yeah.
gonna be kind of thing. But it's like
I think-
which one of my points I was gonna get to later, but I kind of want to just throw that in there is that
Mhm.
meet the needs of the generation. Like
Yeah.
this generation needs more than just that what we've always done because that's what works or that's what we think works.
That's
which
what think works.
we've proven
yeah.
that it doesn't.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Always
definitely.
will work.
The
Um,
and the back to the culture thing. The culture always evolves.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's teaching the same thing then may not work now.
Yes.
Because we as people evolve. Look at all the different technology. Me being in technology,
Mhm.
there's so many things that are more advanced right now,
Mhm.
and so it's like, why are we going on the exact same principles from way back in since the U.S. started? Pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. Like literally, like hundreds of years.
Yes.
Like the education system's been pretty much
Yes.
the same.
Yes.
It hasn't
Mhm.
changed much. I guess the only thing that has changed is you can't. Well, I mean, isn't that in some places still that you can still
Private
like
schools.
Huh?
Paddle.
Yeah,
The
paddle
paddle.
kids.
It's,
Where you
only,
can paddle
it's private, like private schools. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if they do it at Garces. I don't want to say that they do, but Garces is one of those schools where it would be allowed.
Right, because it's a private school. What you're saying.
Bakersfield Christian. I don't
Mhm.
think they do it, but it's a place where they could institute those kind of rules. But just just going off, this is funny to me, but I guess it's not funny. It's just for the like even the way the school year is set up, right? And now I'm thankful for my summers off. But do you guys know why that was the case? Like why the 3 month block in the middle of the year is for?
No.
It was for kids who helped their parents on the farm.
Oh.
That's how old this whole setup is.
Right.
Because
Well, it kind of applies to like nowadays, kind of like if you're like, for us, it's a lot of agriculture around us.
Yeah, no,
So,
and-
you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
kids do go work out in the fields in the
but
summer.
how? Yes, they do,
Yeah.
especially like in my district because we're predominantly Latin. But even still, like most everyday kids don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
if we had to take
yeah.
a general census, like most
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
It
You know what I mean?
It always depends on location and where you are.
But
'cause
back
some-
then, sorry, I
Yeah.
didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Back then, most kids like they were on farms. Like
Yeah, they
that's
were on
just
farms, and that's
that
what
was
they had
that
to do.
wasn't
That
a
was the
city
thing.
really. There was
Uh-huh.
farms. Sorry.
Wow.
yeah. No, that no.
Yeah.
Is like I was just saying that it depends on location now
Yeah,
Mhm.
because
definitely.
like since we have more cities and like LA,
Mhm.
why are we doing that in LA?
Right, right. For inner LA at
Yeah,
least.
for inner LA.
Yeah.
Like there's really even outer LA. Are there really farms in outer LA? Not really.
And are there
There's
kids
some,
working
but-
on the farms? Because
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now outside of LA, yeah, like the
Yeah.
outskirts maybe. But
Yeah.
Not like actually. Yeah.
yeah, like here in Kern County, it would be like what Arvin, Shaft, or Delano.
Yeah.
Because I have a friend that works in those like in that area, and they call it like the migrant worker area, right?
Mhm.
Because kids will be in school for 3 months and be gone for 3 months, and that's normal for them because
Right.
of the fact that they're helping their parents on the farm. So like
Oh,
they'll see
nice.
that a lot more often in those areas. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
Because and they'll say that a kid like will come and then they'll be gone because they're helping their parent, and they'll
Yeah.
come back and then so.
That's interesting.
Very
But
interesting.
I mean, yeah, but a lot of places it's not like I don't think any of
No,
my
yeah.
kids do that.
Yeah, definitely.
So
for
that
the
kind
most
of
part.
solidifies the point of it's not like a one size fits all type of situation where
Yeah,
you
definitely.
can't teach the exact same way in every single school.
Right. Mhm.
I think it depends on what's like in our town, like in Bakersfield and Cook County, we're really big on oil.
Mhm.
So like, should kids learn how to do pipelining and all the kind of stuff that they
Right.
do out in the oil fields? Maybe
Exactly.
I don't know, but we should be gearing towards what's really going on in that particular city. or
Yeah,
town.
definitely. Like, right, like what's the work? What's the field around? Like you got
Yeah.
oil fields, we got agriculture, and then other people, like let's say if you're in Silicon Valley, you got all the technology and all that. So they would more likely emphasize and focus on those kind of things, like what kind of work is around you, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah. But even but that doesn't mean it can't change because
No, yeah, of
some
course.
cities can evolve and
Definitely.
implement more technology into their workload. But
Yeah.
who knows?
And then, so I think something that we could agree with, I don't want to speak for everybody, but parent involvement, like I said,
Oh,
it
definitely. Definitely.
starts at home,
Oh, my
right?
goodness.
How you raise
Definitely.
your children. So how do you think parent involvement in the education system could improve?
How much time you got? No.
Well, we're at it.
Okay. Well, let me just start with saying, like, and I don't mean to go on a tangent, but let me just start with saying, with the pandemic, we see, as a teacher, like, it was bad. Like, and again, this is not a blanket on every parent because, you have both sides of the coin. I have parents who they're like, I have to work. Like, when my kid comes home from school, I go to work, or when my kid's at school, I'm asleep to go to work, or whatever the case may be. That's just the true life of their situation. So their parent involvement might be, hey, you got homework, and the kid's gonna say no. You know what I mean? Like the ones who, not all of them again, but they're gonna say no, or I did it already.
Yeah.
And a parent's not gonna check. They're gonna just say, okay, well, okay, and then parent teacher conferences. I'll have them come and I'll get all my A kids, and we'll discuss like me and my department sometimes we'll be like, why did such and such come? You know what I mean? Like their kid has an A. Like I need to see this parent's kid
Oh.
that is no turning not one assignment all
And
quarter.
well, that's a reflection of the person's parenting. Maybe they have an A because the parent is involved.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was
Exactly.
going to tie that together and
Mhm.
say. And so like even with the pandemic, like parents were feeling like overwhelmed, like, but the truth is the parents who were always involved, this was normal for them. This was a
Right.
little bit more normal because their kids are at home all the time now.
Mhm.
But them being involved in like what their kids doing and keeping up with their homework and making sure they're logging into class was normal for them because that's what
Yeah.
they always did. And I had kids who kept an A the entire year because their parents would be on them, and I would see them. We have parent teacher conferences twice a year, and I would see them twice a year. They'd email me and say, "Oh, hey, if one assignment dips, like if their grade dipped even a little bit, I get an email." You know what I mean? And so parent involvement definitely needs to change. And like I said, I understand circumstances are hard for a lot of people because you know you can only do what you can do. But just like I tell my parents, like they get free planners at our school. I was like, make them write down the assignments and then or make them give it to the teacher to write down if the teacher's willing, and then say, I need to see, it says right here you had this math worksheet, I need to see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because I even tell my kids, just do it, like even if it's wrong, because we'll go over it in class.
Yeah.
Fix it.
Mhm.
But the point is to complete it in the first place. And I tell them, like, you can't go to work and not clock. I mean, you can't go to work, clock in, and say, okay, I'm going home, go to sleep now. Like
Yeah.
that's like school. Like
Yeah.
you have to put in the work. Like
Yeah.
and so, but it's also the parent that has to say, I need to know what you're doing because what's going to happen when they turn 18 or whatever. And so parent involvement definitely needs to change. And I don't know how it can. A lot of parents are uneducated about how to be involved. I know they recently, and I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent, but
No, go ahead.
recently one of my administration talked about, or actually a speaker came to our meeting. We have a big meeting at the beginning of the year with all the teachers, and he talked about how a lot of parents can't speak, English.
Yeah.
And so one kid would tell his grandmother that F meant fantastical.
Oh God, I hope he was
Right?
kidding.
No, he wasn't. So he held
That's
like
hilarious.
a thing, like he held like some type of like parent meeting at night where he would explain the different grades and the different marks you could see and how to
Right.
log in and check that kind of thing. Because just a lot of like, especially like I have kids who are like, I stay with my grandmother and they're older, and the grandmother doesn't. They're just like, they tell me they do their homework. I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm assuming they're doing it, and then they find out they're failing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, parent involvement definitely needs to change in a lot of different ways. I can't say how exactly.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, how can a school like actively get a
I
parent
think that's
to
what
engage?
it is communication. And
Uh-huh.
and as a teacher, it definitely, and I'm not making an excuse, it is hard for me to communicate with 150 kids, parents.
Yeah.
But it needs to be a two-way street also. Like,
Mhm.
so if a parent emails me, I will definitely email them back. And I know I need to do a better job of emailing those parents whose kids are failing. But a lot of times I'll call them and they don't answer. They don't call me back. I'll leave a message. You know what I mean? It just needs to be open line of communication and more parent teacher conferences. We only have 2 a year. Maybe have two a quarter, and we have 4 quarters. That's 8. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's
So
reasonable.
yeah, and just especially for the kids that are failing, they should have constant check-in.
Yeah.
Both on
Joe?
both ends. Sorry, go ahead.
So I was going to ask you a question. Do you think that it would help teachers more often to be able to communicate with teachers if if teachers had more assistants more often? Like,
Oh yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
So they have like, let's say every teacher has 3 assistants that are looking
Oh,
over
that'd be
the.
beautiful.
They were looking over the class. This is just my idea, but looking
Yeah.
over the classroom while they're being taught. They're looking over the kids' shoulders, seeing what is going on, and they're also consistently logged in as well to see like which one's failing, which one's not, and they send out emails and stuff like that also along with yourself because I know my dad being a teacher for so long, every single day, being a little kid after school, he'd still be staying like 2 hours after school, trying to lesson plan, trying to do all these things at the exact same time. There's not really enough time in the day to do all those things, and then you get like a small 30-minute lunch, or you get a small lunch. It's not like a long period of time.
Yeah, elementary and middle school and high school are different.
Yeah. And but either way, you don't really get that much time inside of school to like try to lesson plan or whatever try to do. So you have to do it after school.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have it's like it's
Oh, yeah.
there's no way to not work while you're not at school as a teacher.
Yeah.
So him being there for 2 hours doing all this lesson planning and stuff, it's like, okay, when can I go home? I got
Yeah.
my family at home too. I have 3 kids or however many kids
Right.
you have.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm trying to get to is there's not enough in every thing that deals with work. We're always understaffed and always undermanned.
Mhm.
So it's like, and I feel that that's what's happening to our educational system since the beginning is that we don't have the resources in school to be able to communicate consistently
Yeah.
and to be able to teach the kids at the same time and be able to do all these other things. It's like because a teacher has to be a counselor, has to be a parent, has to be a teacher,
Babysitter.
the babysitter. They have to do so many hats, and people always say, "Well, they're just overpaid babysitters." If they were just there to watch a kid and that's all,
Yeah.
they
We
would
get
just sit
paid
them there,
more.
put on Cocomelon, and just leave the room and come back in an hour.
Yeah.
And we get paid more.
And teach
Can I
them
emphasize
nothing.
that part? We
What?
get paid more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
babysitters get paid more than teachers.
than
So that statement is ridiculous.
Well, I'd like to meet that babysitter and get that job because I'd love to get paid that much.
No, because they
But-
charge per kid per hour.
Right,
Mhm. You know
right.
what I mean?
So with the point that he was making, I think it'll go back to what I was saying earlier. Yes, I think you would love to have assistants, right?
Mm-hmm.
The funding for it. How are we
Yes,
going to pay for the
exactly.
assistants? You
Exactly.
know?
And the funding, I think one of the things that goes with the funding is, of course, if we had the capability as a culture, as a whole, that we had higher wages, we had people that were a lot more people were capable of funding the schools, like not just by their tax dollars, but having the parents that have students that go to have kids that go to that specific school, they're consistently donating, but every single parent.
Right.
Well, unfortunately, you do see that. I mean, not unfortunately, but unfortunately, you do see that in the more well-off neighborhoods.
That's
I would say.
but that's
Yeah.
my point. Like
Yeah.
if
It should happen
we
across
were
the board, is what you're
capable
saying.
of not having all these places where we have so many poor people that they can't really do anything to help. They can give pennies on the dollar. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? They can only give pennies where across town in Rosedale or in any other place that Seven Oaks or something like that,
Mhm.
they're sitting there
Yeah.
And they're on the
making it rain
PTA,
on the
which
school.
goes back to parent involvement. They're on
Yeah.
the PTA, Parent
Yeah.
Teacher Association.
Well, solving poverty or doing that, I think that's a whole nother
Yeah.
No,
topic.
that's a whole. It is, but that contributes.
Oh,
to-
definitely, 100%.
Yes.
to school.
Yeah. So with we're talking about the public education system. It's hard to get them the funding that
Oh,
they
yeah.
need. Well, I don't know much about the funds or how they're allocated, but I think we should maybe get them to do a better job of allocating the funds better.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of money is spent needlessly in the government and
Mhm.
on things that we don't need as
Yeah.
much, and maybe refocusing it on education. I think
Yes.
education should be a huge priority.
And I'm afraid to say this because if it gets big, but I'm just gonna say it. Like and going back to that, it's like I don't know. It was me and Joe were talking about this one time about I think the military, the police force, and not saying that they shouldn't be funded because I don't want to get somebody read and
Right.
say you said no, I didn't. I'm just saying 70% or whatever the crazy percentage is, 60, 70%
For the military?
for the military and the police force.
With that, I agree. I don't want to get into it
Yeah,
big time
yeah,
either,
yeah,
but I
yeah.
definitely would agree with that.
That's
we
a big
spend
number.
we spend way too much money on the military. We spend more than the next 9 countries combined.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
Yes.
We need to reallocate that stuff and put it back into public education.
And again, we wonder why countries like Japan are better educated
Mhm.
than us when that's
Yep.
the case.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
definitely.
So you
And-
got a point to say, well, what are they doing that we're not? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Not to say that we want to be Japan or not. I'm just
I mean,
Right.
that's literally why
Not
the
trying-
stereotype is there. The
Yeah.
stereotype
Right,
is there
they're
that
so
they're
smart.
so much
Yeah.
smart.
But they do
Yeah.
have a lot more. It's part of their culture and parent involvement and that stuff as
Oh
well.
yeah, they're very
Exact-
strict about
exactly.
education.
Yeah.
So ultimately, it does deal with the culture of where we are. It
Mhm.
deals with how we allocate funds. It deals with teachers and parents being
Mhm.
consistent in a student's life or
Yeah.
a son or daughter's life or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
And because, like we just said, in Japan, they're really strict on that.
Yeah.
We are not. We're like laid back.
Mhm.
We're like, give them this
Yeah.
cut out.
Well,
Here
it's
you
the
go.
land of the free. You go do whatever you want.
Yeah,
That's kind of the American,
yeah, the way.
the American way. So I couldn't close this out, but at least bringing this in is, so they took God out of school,
Mhm.
right? Religion out of school. I think we need to bring spirituality back into school.
Okay.
Not any specific religion, one or another, but give kids the option to explore spirituality or explore different religious ideas. Because I feel like what religion teaches us, or is that we're all connected in some way, and there's a
Mhm.
higher God, and we're all children, and we all come from that, and we're all connected. And I feel like that connection, having that unity, would really improve the children's life, and just the public education system overall, I think, would be more successful if we allowed that in school.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah. Back
Well,
to your, sorry.
go
Who wants to go? Who
Back,
wants to go?
back to your, I'll go.
Go.
So back to your thing with not trying to get too far into, like you said, the military or whatever,
Mhm.
police. But I think in school we need to be taught more often our laws in our state, and because when, like, I've seen so many kids when they turn 18, they don't even know what or 16, they don't even know what their driver's license necessarily means.
Right.
They don't know the
Mhm.
laws. They don't really know the laws of the road because the test doesn't really go over every law of the road. It goes over only specifics that you have to deal with while you're driving, but it doesn't go off over everything. Like the last one I was talking about, the whole headlight situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Who is supposed to know?
Yeah,
that?
like who would know that?
Who-
But I definitely agree with that. Like, teach kids like common penal codes and common laws, because as like we said in our last other episode, as a public, we're oblivious to the laws. We don't know the laws. We're not
Mhm.
taught that in elementary school, middle, or high school. I feel like they
Yeah.
need to teach more laws, just so you can be a law-abiding citizen and be
Yeah,
aware of
right.
your rights.
Exactly.
I'm not
how
taught
can
my
you
rights
be a law-abiding citizen when you don't even know
when
the
you
law?
don't know the law.
Yeah.
That's why the police always say you can literally follow somebody for 10 minutes and they will definitely break some sort of law.
They broke some sort of law.
That's sad
I don't
to say
doubt that. I don't doubt
and
that.
that's like an actual statistic.
Yeah.
And like literally cops, like my friends that are cops and everything, they literally said that you can drive by, especially in the road, you can
Uh-huh.
drive behind somebody
Right.
and immediately, like within 2 minutes, they'll do something.
Yeah.
break
Might be
some
something
sort of
small. Might
infraction.
have rolled
That's
that
crazy.
stop a little bit. Yeah.
something.
Yeah. That's me. I'll be honest.
But anyway, so back to the educational side, but
Yeah.
that's what we do. I definitely need to teach that
Hmm.
in schools.
Yeah, definitely.
Upon a whole lot of other things.
Yeah, upon a whole lot of other things. Did you have another point that you wanted
Yeah,
to
I was
make?
gonna go off of your spirituality
Uh-huh.
point, mental health,
Yes.
which is something that
Oh,
I have
man.
to say is trying to be implemented.
Mhm.
So one thing that they're talking about for us for next year is mindfulness practices. I don't know if you
Mhm.
guys know what those are.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No. So that's where the kids would take a minute to kind of like we were talking about last time with the reflection and like literally like if you watch some videos on mindfulness, like the kids will say, okay, the teacher will say, okay, we're gonna take a minute and just breathe, like meditate.
Yeah.
And they were gonna take a minute to just let go of our negative thoughts. Like
Yeah.
meditation
Yeah.
and really like
Oh, if you had meditation to school, I think that would be
they're
a
trying
great
to do
boost.
that. They're trying to focus more on
Yeah.
mental health because obviously that's a big component
Mhm.
of just like you said of self-esteem. It's a big
Yeah,
component
exactly.
of critical thinking.
Mhm.
Just a lot of things, and especially because what kids go through outside of school, it's
Oh yeah.
I mean, as an educator, I was just thinking like every day of the pandemic about all those kids who are at home
Mhm.
that should be at school because that's how they got their food, or that's how they socialize, or
Yeah.
just not to sound cryptic, but they're being molested or being
Right.
abused at home.
Yeah, I was reading all kind of
And-
articles that
It
abused,
skyrocketed
during
yeah,
the pandemic.
Yeah,
It's sad.
unfortunately, yeah. So, but yeah, back to this. I guess that kind of tags onto your spirituality, and that wasn't even one that I had, but just to think about it, yeah, mental
Yeah.
health is a big thing that a lot of teachers is like, oh, I got to teach mental health, like, but it's like, kids need that. Kids are
Yeah.
depressed. Kids are
Yeah.
like
Kids are going
anxiety,
through things and they
like
don't talk
social,
about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, and it's getting worse. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I can only imagine.
And I see it every year, like the difference in my kids. Like I can see, like, you know, every year the kids are getting worse in certain areas, and that's a big one.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And like you said, I think that adds to the self-esteem. Adding some sort of like self-esteem, self-care kind of class where you learn mindfulness and how to take care of yourself physically and mentally. I think that's something.
And spiritually.
Yeah, and spiritually, because that's something that we would benefit for the rest of our lives.
Yes.
Not just in our school career, whether we choose to go to college or we could drop out of high school or whatever.
Yeah.
As long as you have that self-esteem, that self-care, that critical thinking, that can go a long ways and just benefit you in life overall.
Yes.
So I think your main point is having something implemented in school that will get you ready for the future more often. It'll get you ready for real life experiences.
Yes. Yeah, because not everybody goes to universities after high school. You know what I mean? I feel like that's what the educational system is set up to do. All right, you guys all sit down, read these books. You're gonna take these classes, graduate, now go to college. Not everybody wants to go to college after high school. That's why we add the trades. Learn the trades. You learn your trades. You get out of high school. You get a job in a trade because you have your experience. You know what I mean? Not everybody wants or needs to go to a university to be successful or just to be
and
happy.
I'm a big college person, like, so
yeah.
You know, and I tell kids just at least be ready for it. I'm not saying that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
But just like the workforce, at least be prepared for if that's what you decide to do.
Yeah.
And so that's what I at least say. It's like, no, you don't necessarily have to go. I think that's what you should shoot for if you want to be any type of professional something. But like you said, we can't all be doctors.
Yeah.
We're not all going to be doctors.
And we don't
have doctors. Who's going to build the house? Like, I'm just sorry, not to sound bad. If we're all doctors, who's going to do the electrical? Who's going to build the bridges? I mean, who's going to flip the hamburgers at McDonald's? I don't know. I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, I agree.
You know, everybody is needed for every puzzle piece is important. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I just tell kids just be prepared for whatever your future might be. And so if you decide to go to college, at least have yourself prepared for that. But it doesn't mean you have to.
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't mean you have to.
Yeah. But yeah.
Definitely.
So
I think, definitely. I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up.
Yep.
So if you guys have any opinions on this, the public educational system, any improvements you think that they should make, or is it fine? Tell us why you think it's fine. So just go ahead, interact with us, drop your comments down below, and we'll see you guys on the next time. Till then,
yes, sir.
Peace.
Deuces.
OMG, where we keep going cause the party don't stop. We turn up, doing our thing, just living our lives, and we don't stop. Open my group so you know we won't flop. We on top, come to the party, you don't wanna miss out.